Rahim and welcome. This is video number 520 and in this video I'm going to explain the various types of public policy. So we start with the question of what is public policy. We'll introduce and we will define this. In this presentation we'll also differentiate between policy and politics to recognize why and how students should study public policy, identify various types of public policy, and so on. So we start with the first question and the definition of what is public policy. What is most pressing problem facing the public today? Is it educational reform, healthcare costs, the external debt crisis, unemployment, inflation, or a budget deficit reaching into the trillions? How about climate change or the air and water pollution in the country? What about gun violence and security issues? The problems facing the country are so many, but solutions exist, and it is within the power of the government to provide those solutions by developing thoughtful and effective public policy. We know that public refers to the people, and the government of Pakistan was established to serve at the will of the people. Unlike the word public's precise definition, public policy has numerous ways to be defined and just as many opinions about what it entails. The following table provides definitions for public policy for some of the leading textbooks on this topic. So we'll start with the introduction to public policy. Table 1 provides definitions for public policy for some of the leading textbooks, and here we say Clark, Cochrane and others in 2010 has defined public policy as the outcome of the struggle in government or who gets what. Similarly, Guy Peters has defined public policy as stated most simply. Public policy is the sum of government activities, whether acting directly or through agents, as it has an influence on the life of citizens. According to Thomas, whatever governments choose to do or not to do is known as public policy. Thomas Birkeland has defined public policy as a statement by government at whatever level in whatever form of what it intends to do about a public problem. Another definition of public policy is a course of action adopted by the government in response to public problems. While it would be impossible to agree on one definition, common themes exist throughout the literature. First, public policy is created by the government and private business activity is not included in its definition. Second, public policy occurs as a response to a public problem. Public problems are issues that government has the power to resolve. It is important to note that while government might have the power to resolve public problems, the government faces many problems it has yet to resolve, such as drug addiction, poverty, or homelessness, and so many others. Why to study public policy? According to some authors, understanding the public policy process is essential for individuals because familiarity with the system allows us to effectively address problems in our community. Students studying public policy will quickly learn that multiple people and institutions are involved in the policy making process and many opportunities exist for citizens to play a direct role. Furthermore, increasing the number of citizens who understand the policy making process will lead to better solutions to the public problems. Studying public policy will help us to learn about more active participant in our government so that your voice can be heard during policy debates. Most importantly, if you do not participate in these discussions, we may end up living with policies we don't support. An interest in public policy would also lead to lucrative career in the field. Policy professionals come from a variety of disciplines and backgrounds, from healthcare and education to economic and foreign policy. These practitioners are experts in their fields and have the ability to influence public policy in profound ways. Indeed, the prospect of directly influencing public policy without ever seeking elected office has definite allure. Regardless of your career ambitions, you will certainly find yourself involved in politics or public policy at some point in your life. Eventually, a mall in your town could be abandoned, leading citizens and the city council to come together to address the blighted and vacant property. One day, you may face community concerns regarding overdevelopment or contaminated water sources. At some point, you may see a spike in crime rates in your neighborhood. Perhaps your neighbor is deported or your child is unable to receive a necessary surgery because of healthcare costs. Such situations will spur you to suddenly recall the lessons learned in this course and realize that you have the power as a citizen to influence public policy. Now we will discuss various types of public policy. Public policy is all around us, but the policies developed by lawmakers come in many different forms. Some policies distribute a good or service to everyone. Others seeks to redistribute benefits and foster equality for certain groups. Finally, some intend to regulate behaviors and establish executive agencies. The term government actors is comprehensive and refers to any person acting on behalf of the government. This term is used throughout the text when discussing government workers at the federal, state, and or local levels. To that end, public policy can be made by government actors at all levels of government. Thom's law argued that policy can be classified into four categories, that is, distributive public policy, redistributive public policy, regulatory, and constituent policies. Even today, these classifications continue to adequately describe most government policies. So let us start with distributed policies, which allow government actors to provide beneficial goods and services to a majority of the population at the expense of all taxpayers. They are designed to improve the equitable distribution of goods and services by providing benefits to a large portion of the population rather than by taking from one group and giving to another. Two realities of distributive policies make them the least controversial from the government policy. Everyone share Everyone shares their benefits and the general public pays their costs. Distributive policies are easy to recognize and policy goals are typically easy to identify. The public encounters distributed policies every day. Examples of the distributed public policy include public roads, public education, public highways. Public highways are paid for by all taxpayers and built by government agencies for the good of the whole population. Public transportation infrastructure funded by taxpayers serves to benefit all groups within the society. The same can be said for public education. Public schools are paid for by all citizens and provide society with a well-educated workforce that further benefits the overall economic growth of the nation. The second type of public policy is redistributed policies that reallocate wealth, property, political and civil rights, or some other valuable items to the advantage of class-based groups. While these policies often involve economic decisions, they can also involve the redistribution of social status. For example, redistributed economic policies redistribute income and wealth from the wealthiest population to the poorest group of the population. Civil rights policies are intended to provide social benefits to minorities and women so that they may obtain economic and social equality. Redistributive policies are more controversial than distributive policies because they provide benefits to specific groups at the expense of others. One of the most important services provided by the government is the protection of individual rights, which are necessary for the establishment of law and order in many civilizations. The third form of public policy is regulatory policies that allow the government to compel certain beneficial behaviors from individuals or groups while discouraging other behaviors. Government regulatory policies involve the implementation of rules by government actors, rules that are backed by the law. These policies place constraints on unacceptable individual and group behaviors. The goal of regulatory policies then is to provide safe atmosphere for all individuals without resulting in an excessive loss of rights or freedoms. Prohibitions on driving under the influence of alcohol and limitations on unfair business practices are two examples of regulatory public policies. Government policies limiting the price of electricity and water utilities are another example of regulatory actions. Government licensing requirements for specific professions, safety requirements for pharmaceuticals, limitations on toxic emissions and pollutants from factories, and minimum safety requirements for workers are all examples of regulatory policies. Anti-discrimination laws represent another form of regulatory policy intended to improve the lives of minorities and women. The final and fourth type of public policy constitutes constituent policies, which involve the creation and regulation of government agencies and can also refer to policies that establish the way a government functions. Constituent policies are structural in that they include the creation of government agencies, usually under the executive branch, that work to enforce statutory laws created by the Congress. Constituent policies are the government's reaction to external stimuli. For example, after the terrorist attacks on the United States on September 11, 2001, President George W. Bush's administration established the Department of Homeland Security to improve the ability of federal and state government agencies to combat domestic threats. Constituent policies also encompass law enforcement, fiscal policy development, and public sector bureaucratic regulation. The definition of constituent policy has expanded from what Lowy once envisioned to include citizen or interest groups initiated policies. Rather than constituent policies initiated by Congress or executive branch agencies, Tolbert argues that citizen-directed democracy effects have also created constituent policies. Ladies and gentlemen, this was a brief introduction on what is public policy, why should we study it, and what are the various types of public policy. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, kindly subscribe to the channel and don't forget to click on the bell icon so that you can get my timely notification about my other videos that I'll upload for you. Thanks for watching. Kindly subscribe to the channel and share various videos of this channel in various WhatsApp groups with your friends, colleagues, and students.